Princess Leora stood at the edge of the observation deck, staring at the vast stars that stretched across the sky. The alien capital sparkled far below, a city of shining towers, golden bridges, and flowing lights. Yet, despite all its beauty, Leora felt trapped. Life in the palace was filled with rules, traditions, and endless ceremonies. Every step she took was watched, every word she spoke was judged. But today she would leave it all behind, even if only for a short time. Today she would visit a human colony on the frontier planet of Alera 9. Humans were considered weak and simple by the Empire, creatures of curiosity rather than skill. The court often laughed at her interest in them. Why waste time on fragile beings? They asked. But Leora had seen something different. She had heard stories from explorers, whispers of humans who survived impossible odds, who adapted and who fought back when all hope seemed lost. Her shuttle descended through Alera 9's thin atmosphere, and the landscape opened into a mix of rocky plains, dense forests, and wide rivers. The human settlement looked small against the vast world, but it buzzed with life. People moved quickly, building, repairing, and farming with machines that seemed crude but worked in ways the aliens did not expect. Leora stepped out onto the dusty ground. She felt the wind against her skin, the strange warmth of the sun. She was no longer surrounded by palace guards or golden walls. Here she was just Leora, a curious princess far from home. Then she saw him, Ethan. He was tall for a human, with broad shoulders and hands that had clearly done hard work. Dirt stained his uniform, and sweat ran down his face, but his eyes were calm and focused. He was fixing a broken transport vehicle, moving with skill and determination. There was no hesitation in his actions, only careful, precise work. Leora watched quietly. Something about him felt different. He did not seem afraid of her, nor did he treat her as someone untouchable. He was fully absorbed in his work, confident, yet humble. She stepped closer, letting the shuttle doors close behind her. "Hello," she said softly, in the universal trade language. Ethan looked up, surprised. For a moment, his eyes widened. Then a small smile appeared. "You're a visitor?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag. "Yes. I am Princess Leora," she replied, bowing slightly, though she kept her gaze steady. Ethan's eyes flicked at her uniform, the fine fabrics, the insignia of royalty. He did not show awe, only curiosity. "A princess," he repeated, shaking his head in disbelief. "I didn't think anyone from the Empire would come here. You're brave." Leora smiled. "Curious, mostly. I wanted to see humans for myself." He raised an eyebrow. "You chose a dangerous place for curiosity." "That is why I came," she said simply. Over the next hours, Ethan showed her the settlement. Leora saw humans farming with machines, building shelters that could withstand storms, repairing vehicles, and running patrols through the wild forests. Every human she met was busy, focused, and resilient. Leora began to understand what the explorers meant. Humans survived not because they were strong like aliens, but because they adapted, learned, and never gave up. At dusk, they reached the edge of a canyon where a human research team was testing a new rover. Leora's shuttle was waiting, but she hesitated. "You could stay longer," Ethan said, noticing her reluctance. "The frontier is not as safe as the capital, but you are welcome here." She began, then stopped. She realized she didn't want to leave, not yet. There was something in Ethan's calm confidence, his quiet determination, that fascinated her. He faced dangers daily, yet he did not complain. He solved problems with his mind and his hands, not with power or authority. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the ground. Dust and rocks flew into the air. A transporter truck had overturned, and a chemical container was leaking. Aliens watching from afar would have panicked. Humans rushed forward calmly, coordinating with each other. Ethan moved first. He ran toward the truck, shouting instructions. Leora followed instinctively, amazed at his fearlessness. Using quick thinking, Ethan stabilized the container, blocking the leak and guiding the human crew to safety. When the dust settled, he turned to Leora. His face was smeared with dirt, but his eyes sparkled. "See? We survive," he said with a grin. Leora laughed softly. "You do more than survive. You lead." He shrugged. "We all do our part." She realized then that humans were not simple. They did not rely on raw strength, technology alone, or social rules. They relied on each other, on cleverness, and on courage. And Ethan, he embodied it all. As night fell, Leora stood with him, looking at the twin moons rising above the horizon. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a mixture of admiration and curiosity. This human, so different, so ordinary, yet so extraordinary, had captured her attention in ways no alien ever had. But far away, in the imperial capital, whispers had begun. Courtiers and advisors would hear of her visit. Many would disapprove. The queen herself would question her choices. Leora did not care. She only knew one thing. She wanted to learn more about humans. And perhaps she wanted to know more about him. Ethan looked at her and asked, "You'll come back tomorrow?" "I will," she replied with a smile, feeling the first taste of freedom she had ever known. And so, the adventure began. Back in the Grand Palace, the golden halls and tall ceilings felt colder than ever to Princess Leora. She had returned from Alera 9, but the images of humans working, surviving, and solving problems burned in her mind. More than anything, she could not forget Ethan, the human who had faced danger without fear, who had led his people with courage and cleverness. But the palace was not a place for curiosity or admiration of humans. The court was buzzing with gossip. Advisors whispered behind fans and pillars, questioning her judgment. A human? A princess of our empire should not waste her attention on fragile beings, one minister said, frowning. The queen, wise and cautious, summoned Leora to her chambers. Leora entered, bowing low, though her mind was already racing. She had expected questions, but she was ready to defend her choices. "Leora," the queen began, her voice calm but firm. "I hear stories. Stories that you have been spending time with a human. Do you understand what this means?" "Yes, mother," Leora replied. "I understand. But you do not see them as I do. Humans are not weak. They survive, adapt, and show courage in ways we often underestimate." The queen's eyes narrowed. "You admire him. Do you not fear what the court will say? Do you not see the danger to our traditions?" "I see it," Leora said. "But I also see his strength, his skill, and his intelligence. He is not like the others you think of when you hear human. He is remarkable." The queen sighed, leaning back in her chair. "You risk scandal. You risk your reputation. And yet, I sense that your heart is set. Tell me, what do you intend to do?" "I do not know yet, mother," Leora admitted. "But I know that humans have more to offer than anyone believes. I want to learn from them, I want to understand them, and I want to know him better." The queen was silent for a long moment. Then she said softly, "Be careful, my daughter. Curiosity is fine. Love is a storm you cannot control." Meanwhile, the court began to stir with rumors. At a formal banquet held in honor of the princess's return, whispers followed her everywhere. Nobles cast sly glances, some openly, questioning her judgment. "Did you hear?" one noblewoman said to another. "The princess spent weeks with a human, weeks." "Humans are dangerous," another replied. "They are unpredictable. She could ruin everything." Leora walked, among them, holding her head high. She had expected this, she was prepared. But she also wanted them to see what she saw. Humans were not just survivors, they were thinkers, innovators, and courageous beyond measure. When the banquet began, a demonstration of human skills was planned. Leora had invited Ethan discreetly to show what humans could do. The court was skeptical. When he entered, tall, calm, and confident, many gasped. "Who is he?" whispered one minister. "He is not dressed like us. He does not bow like us. He is ordinary." Ethan smiled slightly. Unshaken, he moved to the demonstration area, explaining a simple human device that could detect structural weaknesses in buildings. He demonstrated it clearly, efficiently, and without arrogance. The device was crude by alien standards, but its results were undeniable. The court murmured in disbelief as the human's calculations and solutions solved problems that even trained alien engineers had struggled with. Leora watched proudly. She had hoped Ethan would impress, but even she was surprised at how quickly he adapted to the alien audience. One minister, still scornful, asked, "Can you really trust him? He is human, fragile, weak." Ethan turned calmly. "Fragile? Perhaps. Weak? No. Humans survive by thinking, by adapting, and by working together. Strength is not always in size or power. It is in creativity, courage, and the will to act." A hush fell over the room. Even those who doubted had to pause. His words carried weight, even in an empire that considered humans beneath them. Leora smiled quietly, knowing she had chosen to see the truth. After the banquet, some nobles approached Leora, warning her again. "This fascination with a human, it cannot end well. The court will turn against you. The queen may not forgive." Leora shook her head. "I am aware of the risks, but I will not deny what I see. Humans have value, and he is exceptional." Ethan, meanwhile, had quietly observed the court's reactions. He did not feel fear or arrogance. He understood politics and navigated it. The palace buzzed with tension. Word of Princess Leora's fascination with a human had spread like wildfire. The court watched closely, their whispers following every move she made. And in the center of this storm was Ethan, the human who had captured her attention. The queen, wise and cautious, could not ignore the rumors any longer. She decided that Ethan must be tested, not just by words or demonstrations, but by challenges that would show whether humans were truly capable of surviving and thriving in the alien world. "You must understand," the queen said to Leora one morning, her voice firm. "The Empire has never considered a human equal. If you wish to be associated with him, he must prove that he is more than a fragile creature. These trials will show his worth." Leora's eyes shone with determination. "I understand, Mother, but he will succeed. He is clever, brave, and willing to face challenges." Ethan, unaware of the full scope, was invited to the palace grounds for the first trial. It was a test of intellect, designed to challenge even the brightest alien minds. Complex patterns, mathematical puzzles, and strategic problems were laid before him. Aliens who had trained their entire lives studied them carefully, confident. No human could compete. Ethan examined the problems calmly. He did not panic, even when some puzzles seemed impossible. Using logic and creative thinking, he solved each challenge in ways the judges had not expected. Where aliens relied on memory and strict rules, he applied intuition and innovation. The observers murmured in disbelief. Some tried to find faults, but Ethan's solutions were flawless. He did not boast, nor did he act superior. He simply worked, quietly and efficiently, earning the respect of even the harshest critics. Next came the trial of endurance and adaptability. The palace arena had been transformed into a simulated wilderness, rough terrain, extreme weather, and obstacles designed to test the body and mind. Aliens trained for years struggled to navigate it. Ethan stepped in with nothing but simple equipment and his own instincts. He studied the environment, noticing patterns that others ignored, the way the wind carried scents, how certain rocks were safer to climb, how the sun's angle could guide his path. He moved quickly but carefully, avoiding dangers while helping others who stumbled. When he reached the final checkpoint, the judges were stunned. He had completed the trial faster than most aliens, but more importantly, he had done it with ingenuity and calm leadership. Leora watched from the stands, pride swelling in her chest. She had never seen anyone, human or alien, face challenges with such composure and intelligence. She felt a new respect for the human beside her, and perhaps a hint of admiration deeper than respect. But not everyone was impressed. A faction within. The court whispered urgently among themselves, plotting to discredit Ethan. He may have cleverness, one said, but he is not one of us. He cannot be allowed influence. We must find a way to trap him. Their opportunity came sooner than expected. During the final trial, designed to test strategic thinking and combat readiness, a hidden complication arose. A simulated enemy force, attacked unexpectedly, more powerful than the trial rules had allowed. Many participants panicked. Ethan reacted immediately. He assessed the situation, directing others calmly, improvising solutions where no plans existed. He used human tactics, feints, distractions, and clever traps. His strategy confused the alien observers at first, then impressed them. The simulated enemy was defeated not by strength but by his thinking. When the trial ended, the judges were silent for a long moment. Finally, one elder spoke. He has succeeded beyond expectation. No human should be able to think so clearly, act so decisively, and lead so efficiently. Ethan shrugged modestly. I just use what I know, he said. I observe, adapt, and act. Anyone could do the same with enough thought. The court was divided. Many began to whisper words of admiration, while others muttered about danger and tradition. Leora felt a thrill of hope. Humanity could not be denied any longer. That evening, the Queen summoned Leora to her private chambers. She looked thoughtful, almost impressed. He is extraordinary, she admitted. I underestimated humans. Perhaps there is more value in them than I allowed myself to see. Leora smiled. I told you, Mother. He is not just a human. He is remarkable. The Queen nodded slowly. Yes, but the court will not forgive easily. You and he must be cautious. Those who fear change are dangerous, and they will not stop plotting. Ethan, unaware of the court faction's schemes, was invited to dine with the princess. Over simple food, he asked about the palace and the empire, showing curiosity and humility. Leora found herself laughing at his observations, his clever insights, and his unshakable confidence. You are not like any alien I have met, she said softly. I could say the same about you, he replied, his smile warm. You see people for who they are, not what they are supposed to be. That is rare. Their conversation was interrupted by a messenger. A court advisor had discovered a minor error in one of Ethan's trial records and was trying to claim that he had cheated. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Do not worry, she said. I trust what I saw today. You have proven yourself. Let them whisper. You have my support. Ethan nodded, though he remained calm. He had faced danger on the frontier, survived harsh worlds, and led humans in impossible situations. A few whispers in a palace would not shake him. But Leora knew the whispers would not end easily. Some courtiers were already plotting a more serious trap, one that could put both Ethan and her in danger. She looked at him, thinking, if humans can survive the frontier, they can survive the court. And this one is extraordinary. The trials had shown the court what Leora already knew. Humanity was more capable, more resilient, and more clever than they had ever imagined. But the real challenge was only beginning. The Empire was not used to humans as equals, and soon, Ethan would face tests far greater than intellect or skill. The palace was quiet in the early morning, but the peace was deceptive. Far beyond the Empire's borders, sensors had detected unusual activity, an approaching fleet of alien warships from a neighboring hostile species. The Empire had faced threats before, but this was different. Their scouts reported the enemy, moved with speed and precision that even the Empire's best strategists had not anticipated. Princess Leora was in the training halls with Ethan when the alarm sounded. Red lights flashed and the air filled with tension. Leora's heart raced, but she stayed calm. She knew that fear would not help anyone. The Queen's voice echoed across the palace intercom. All leaders and capable individuals are to report to the strategy chamber. This is not a drill. Our empire faces a real threat. Ethan followed Leora through the corridors, observing everything carefully. What is the plan? He asked, curiosity clear in his eyes. The generals will decide, Leora replied. But sometimes unconventional minds offer unconventional solutions. You have seen humans think differently. Perhaps you can help. The strategy chamber was a large room filled with holographic maps, tables of alien generals and advisors debating loudly. Most looked tense, uncertain, and frustrated. Humans had never been considered in military planning. Their tactics were dismissed as primitive or reckless. When Ethan entered, some of the generals whispered among themselves. A human, standing here in their war room, observing their plans. It was audacious. Leora introduced him simply. This is Ethan. He has experience in survival, strategy, and problem-solving in extreme conditions. I believe he may offer valuable insight. A general snorted. A human? Our empire has stood for millennia. Do you truly suggest we listen to this creature? Ethan remained calm. I only offer ideas. You may accept them or ignore them. But I have experience with unexpected situations, and sometimes thinking differently is the fastest way to survive. The Queen, observing quietly, nodded subtly. She had begun to see what her daughter saw. Humans were resourceful. The first challenge was the approaching enemy fleet. Alien sensors projected their paths, but the generals were unsure how to respond. Many suggested traditional attacks, straightforward, predictable, and often costly in lives. Ethan studied the holographic maps and spoke. What if you don't? Meet them head-on, he asked. If their speed is greater, a direct battle will cost many ships. But if you use the terrain, natural anomalies, and surprise maneuvers, you could trap them or force them to retreat. The room went silent. Some generals frowned, finding the idea risky. Others leaned in, intrigued. Ethan continued, pointing to asteroid fields and nebulae. Use these as cover. Divide your forces. Draw them into channels where their numbers and speed are less effective. Then strike strategically. You don't need to destroy them all, just enough to protect your empire. The Queen spoke softly, to no one in particular. He sees possibilities we ignore because of tradition. The generals debated heatedly, but time was short. The enemy fleet advanced faster than expected. Leora watched Ethan calmly propose small, but critical adjustments, repositioning key ships, reinforcing vulnerable sectors, and creating decoy signals to mislead the enemy. When the first engagement began, Ethan's strategies worked beyond anyone's expectation. Alien ships moved into his traps. The enemy misjudged the Empire's defenses. Losses were minimized and key positions were saved. Leora's pride in him swelled. She saw not just survival, but leadership, courage, and brilliance in action. Ethan was not only The Empire celebrated quietly at first. The hostile fleet had retreated. Their threat diminished thanks to Ethan's strategies. Soldiers returned to their posts, engineers repaired damaged ships, and advisors whispered in amazement about the human who had turned the tide of battle. Leora walked through the palace halls, her heart swelling with pride. Every glance from the court reminded her that the human she had met on Alera 9 was no longer just a visitor. He had become someone the Empire could not ignore. Ethan, for his part, remained calm. He had faced danger before, in worlds where survival was never guaranteed. The palace, its politics, and its traditions were different, but he approached them like any challenge, with observation, patience, and careful action. The Queen summoned him to her chambers. Leora followed, knowing this was an important moment. The chamber was quiet, adorned with tapestries depicting generations of rulers. The Queen's eyes, sharp and assessing, studied Ethan carefully. You have done something remarkable, the Queen said slowly. No human has ever influenced the Empire in such a way. Your intelligence, your courage, your ability to lead, it is undeniable. Ethan bowed slightly. I only did what seemed necessary to protect your people. They executed the plans. I merely suggested them. The queen regarded him silently for a moment, then nodded. You have earned respect that many would never grant. And yet, the court will not easily accept this. You must remain vigilant. Not everyone celebrates your success. I understand, Ethan said calmly. I do not seek favor. I only wish to do what is right. Word of his achievements spread quickly. The court could no longer deny the truth. Humans were capable, clever, and brave. Whispers of doubt transformed into quiet conversations of respect. Generals, once skeptical, now approached Ethan with questions seeking guidance and advice. Leora watched with a mixture of pride and relief. The human she had come to admire had become a hero, not by force but by intellect, strategy, and courage. She had always believed in him, and now the Empire itself was beginning to see what she had known from the start. Despite the recognition, tradition remained a formidable barrier. The Empire had never allowed marriage between royalty and humans. Some courtiers still frowned, whispering that Leora's fascination could lead to scandal. The queen herself, though impressed, was cautious. One evening, Leora found herself alone with Ethan in the palace gardens. The moonlight reflected on the fountains, casting soft shadows across the marble paths. You have changed the Empire, she said softly. They respect you now. But marriage is another matter. Tradition does not allow it. Ethan looked thoughtful. I understand. I never expected to change customs. I only wanted to help. The rest will follow if people see value in humans. Leora smiled, taking his hand. You have already shown them what I saw from the start. But there is more to us than just recognition. There is something I feel, something I cannot ignore. He squeezed her hand gently. I feel it too. I did not expect to, but I cannot deny it. The queen observed them quietly from a distance, understanding the bond forming between her daughter and the human. She had always feared scandal, but she could not ignore Ethan's courage, intelligence, and integrity. Perhaps it was time to reconsider what truly mattered for the Empire. The next day, a formal audience was held. The court gathered, curious to witness the interactions between the princess and the human hero. Leora stepped forward boldly. Members of the court, she began, her voice clear and confident. You have seen the abilities and courage of this human. You have seen how he has helped our empire survive a great threat. He has proven his worth not by rank or heritage, but by action, intelligence, and heart. Whispers filled the room, some in disbelief, some in admiration. Leora continued, I do not ask you to change tradition overnight, but I ask you to see him as he is, not as what he is supposed to be. He is a human, and he is extraordinary. Ethan stepped forward, his calm presence commanding attention. I do not seek titles, influence, or favor, he said. I seek only to help, to survive, and to honor those who trust me. That is all. The court fell silent. Even the most stubborn advisors could not deny the truth. The evidence of his courage, intelligence, and leadership was undeniable. Slowly, murmurs of agreement spread. The Empire could not ignore him any longer. Finally, the queen spoke, her voice firm but warm. Princess Leora has always had a keen eye for truth. This human has proven what she believed. He has earned respect, and in my eyes, he has earned the right to be recognized for his deeds. Let this be a lesson to all. Courage, intelligence, and loyalty are not limited by species. The court bowed, acknowledging both Ethan's achievements and Leora's judgment. Some whispered apologies for doubting him. Others began to see humans in a new light. Leora felt a wave of pride and relief. Later, in the privacy of the gardens, Leora turned to Ethan. You have changed everything, she said softly. The Empire respects you. They cannot deny your courage. But, will they ever accept us? Ethan smiled gently. Perhaps not immediately, but they have started to see what you saw all along, and that is enough for now. We will face the rest together. She looked up at him, her heart full. Then I know what I must do. I cannot ignore what I feel. No tradition, no rule. No whisper in the court can stop me from being with you. Ethan's eyes met hers, calm and steady. And I will stand with you, no matter the challenge. In that moment, they understood each other fully. Recognition from the court was one thing, but true acceptance from themselves and from each other was something far greater. The Empire had survived the threat, and humans had earned respect. But the greatest challenge still lay ahead, the choice of the heart, and Leora knew she would face it without fear. The Empire had changed. The halls of the palace, once filled with whispers of doubt, now echoed with cautious admiration. Humans, once dismissed as weak and fragile, were being seen in a new light. And at the heart of this change stood Ethan, the human who had shown courage, intelligence, and loyalty beyond what anyone had imagined. Princess Leora stood at the balcony of her chambers, gazing at the city below. The golden towers sparkled in the early morning light, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She thought of the frontier, the human settlement on Alera 9, and the man who had captivated her heart. Every trial, every challenge, every moment had led her here. And now, the question was no longer whether humans could be respected. It was whether love could transcend tradition. The queen entered quietly, her steps soft against the marble floor. "Leora," she said, her voice calm but carrying the weight. "Of centuries you have shown wisdom, courage, and judgment. You have defended what you believe, and in doing so you have changed the Empire's view of humans. But the question remains, what do you wish for yourself?" Leora turned, her eyes steady. "I have made my choice, Mother. It is not a decision made lightly, but it is what I feel in my heart. I cannot deny it." The queen studied her daughter for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. "I trust you, as I always have, and I see that this human, Ethan, is deserving of your trust. You may have your way, and I will not oppose it. But remember, the court may take longer to accept what you have decided." "I understand," Leora said, her voice firm. "But I am ready, and he is worthy." Ethan arrived at the palace later that day. Leora greeted him in the gardens, where fountains sparkled in the sunlight and the scent of flowers filled the air. The court had gathered curious and wary, but many eyes were filled with respect rather than doubt. "You have changed everything," Leora said softly, taking his hand. "The Empire respects you, even if some are slow to admit it." Ethan looked around at the assembly, then back at her. "I did what I could. The rest is your doing. You saw me for who I am and believed in me. That made the difference." Leora smiled. "And now, it is my turn to show what I believe." The queen stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. "Members of the court," she said, her voice strong. "The princess has made her decision. She has chosen to honor the human who has shown courage, wisdom, and loyalty beyond expectation. He has earned respect, not through rank or birth, but through deeds. Let this union be recognized not as a challenge to tradition, but as a testament to what true merit looks like." A hush fell over the court. Some members exchanged uncertain glances. Some nodded slowly, acknowledging the truth. The whispers of doubt faded, replaced by quiet murmurs of approval. Leora turned to Ethan, her eyes bright. "Do you accept?" she asked. Ethan smiled, calm and confident as ever. "I do," he said simply. "I accept, and I will stand by you, no matter what comes next." The ceremony was unlike any the Empire had ever seen. Traditional rituals were observed, but new elements were introduced to honor both alien and human customs. Leora and Ethan stood side by side, hands joined, hearts aligned. As the final words were spoken, the queen looked at her daughter and asked, quietly, "Who is he?" Leora smiled, her eyes filled with pride and love. "The human I wed," she said. The assembly fell silent for a moment, then erupted in applause. Even those who had doubted could not deny the truth. Ethan was extraordinary. Humanity had earned its place in the Empire, not through force, but through ingenuity, courage, and heart. And the princess, by choosing him, had shown that love and wisdom could transcend even the oldest traditions. In the days that follow King T,